Hi, everybody. My name is Carrie Whipple, and I work with the Reading Corps and Math Corps programs in North Dakota. And we've had some recent changes in the federal rules for the number of service terms that you can serve in AmeriCorps. And these are really exciting changes. We wanted to tell all of you about this. We're sending this to schools, to tutors, to coaches. We really want to make sure that everyone understands the new rules so that you can really think about and strategize what you want to ask for in terms of the member slot type that you're requesting, and as a tutor so that you can really consider what type of placement slot that you're interested in serving in. So we're going to go through these rules, and then if you have more questions, you can reach out to your coaching specialist or Maria or myself. So first, I just wanted to let you know that the rule has changed. So in the past, members were allowed to serve just 4 terms. And because we have all these different types of hours in North Dakota, that wasn't really equitable across different programs. So in typical AmeriCorps service, there might be a full-time person. And that's not what we usually do in our reading and math corps programs. We have very part-time people. And so the new rule is that you can earn the equivalent of what would be 2 years of a full-time education award. So we wanted to show you a little bit of math about how that works out over time so that you can see how you can sort of plan your future as an AmeriCorps tutor, or perhaps if you're a school, what you're asking for in terms of service. So in North Dakota, in Reading and Math Corps, the highest level of service that we've had is a 900-hour slot. So a 900-hour slot is someone who's with you pretty much the whole school day and the whole year. And that is considered a half-time slot in terms of a service year in AmeriCorps. And so let's just sort of look at that as an example in our next slide here. So a full-time ed award would be the equivalent of 2 full years of service. Well, the math on that is if we have anyone serving in a 900-hour slot, that's really half of an award. So if you served in a 900-hour slot, or you're interested in serving in a 900-hour slot, you can do 4 total years of service, because 0.5 times 4 is a 2. So we're looking at that 2.0 as that full ed award. Most of our tutors serve in a 675 slot, and the equivalent of that service year in terms of a full-time equivalent is a 0.38, which means that that tutor could serve 5 years at a 675 or a 0.38. Plus, they still have a remainder of service. So that remainder of service, they can still do an extra year. So a 675 tutor can actually now serve for 6 years. They have 2 additional years of service. And you can see the math then on a 450 or a 300-hour slot. We really could get a lot of service out of our awesome tutors that we have when we think about some of those lower slot types. So the reason we're bringing this up at this time of year is because this is the time of year when schools are applying to be a host site. And this is also the time of year when tutors are applying. So I'm going to give you just one example of what a school might think about if they've got a tutor that they want to return, who's a really great tutor, and they're thinking about how long can I have this tutor be helping in my school with my students and getting these great outcomes. So I'm going to give you an example. If a school typically likes to have about maybe 4 hours a day of service, they're probably picking a 675-hour slot. And that means that they're having 1 tutor in there for those 675 hours. You know, that person could serve up to 6 years, and that's a great amount of time. But something just to consider, especially if you have a tutor who is not particularly concerned about the living allowance, maybe they have another source of income or that isn't their priority for serving, the school might consider having 2 tutors serve at a 300-hour slot type. It almost gives you the same number of service hours, but you can see that instead of 6 years of service from those tutors, we now get 10 years of maximum service because 9 times a 0.21 ed award is 1.89. We actually have 11 hundredths remaining, right, to use up that we can use that 10th year of service. So it's really just something to sort of consider. I want to walk you through just a couple other scenarios. So for example, maybe we've had a tutor already in the program, they've served a 900-hour slot, and now they've served a 675. You can think about, how do we want to use those 0.88 ed award units remaining? How are we going to use that time? You know, we have 1.12 left. We could do a lot of things with that. If you look at, we could do a couple more years of 900 hours. We can combine that with a 675, right? So we can really be strategic in thinking about what our tutor needs in terms of that living allowance, what our school needs in terms of services for kids, and combining those things when we do our application and our interview and our hiring process to make sure everyone's sort of getting what they need, and we can maximize the number of years that the tutors can stay. So here's another example. This is probably more typical. We probably have a lot of people this year who are in this situation where they've been in a 675-hour slot, which means they've been earning a 0.38 ed award every year. That means after 3 years, they're at 1.14 of that total ed award. Remember, they get up to 2 is their full ed award. So they have 0.86 left. Gosh, they could do a lot of things with that, right? They could do a few more years of 675. They could really go down to this 450-hour slot and maximize that over time. So here's another example of what that might look like. If that tutor stayed another year at 675, maybe they're at 1.52 now. Now they have 0.48 remaining. Well, they could do 2 more years at 675, like we talked about earlier. Or maybe they could do a year at a 450 and then a couple years at 300 and get 3 more years out of it, right? And so we really just have to think about like what that might look like and what's going to meet your needs best. So we just thanks for joining us, and hope that if you have any questions, you reach out. We hope that this really helps us in retaining our awesome tutors that we have, and reduces the number of people that we have to go find in the community, because we can keep the great people that we have even longer. Thanks.